I stood in the hallway of my own home, bags of groceries in my arms. My son Trevor and his wife Amanda blocked the staircase to the second floor. Trevor spoke coldly. "Mom, we need you to stay in the attic from now on. Amanda's pregnant, and we need the master bedroom. You understand, right? It's just temporary." I saw Amanda smirking behind him. The attic. The dusty, unfinished attic of the house my late husband and I built 32 years ago, the house that's still in my name alone. 6 months earlier, my world had looked completely different. Harold, my husband of 43 years, died suddenly from a heart attack while raking leaves in our front yard. One moment he was waving at our neighbor across the street, and the next moment he was gone. The doctor said it was massive, instant, painless. That was supposed to comfort me, but it didn't. Nothing could comfort the hole he left behind. I was lost in that big house without him. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a finished basement, a study that still smelled like his cologne. Every corner held a memory. The kitchen, where we'd cooked together every Sunday. The living room, where we'd watched our sons grow up. The master bedroom, where we'd whispered our dreams to each other in the dark. Suddenly, all of it felt too big, too empty, too quiet. Trevor started calling me every day after the funeral. "How are you doing, Mom? Are you eating? Are you sleeping? Do you need anything?" His concern felt like a lifeline. He lived across town with Amanda, in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment they were renting. They'd been trying to save for a down payment on their own place, but Seattle real estate prices kept climbing faster than their savings account. One evening, about 2 months after Harold's death, Trevor came over with takeout Chinese food. We sat at the kitchen table, and he held my hand across the containers of chow mein and sweet and sour chicken. "Mom, Amanda and I have been talking. You shouldn't be alone here. What if something happens? What if you fall? What if there's an emergency?" I appreciated his worry, but I told him I was managing. I had my routine, my garden, my book club on Thursdays. He squeezed my hand tighter. "We want to move in with you. Just for a few months, maybe 6 at most, just until you adjust, until you feel steadier. We'd keep you company, help with the bills, make sure you're not alone. And honestly, Mom, it would help us too. We could save faster if we weren't paying rent." My heart leaped at the idea. Company. Someone to cook breakfast for again. Someone to talk to in the evenings. The house filled with life, instead of this suffocating silence. I said yes before I even thought it through. Trevor hugged me tight, and I felt, for the first time since Harold died, like maybe I would be okay. They moved in the following weekend, with only a few suitcases and boxes. I gave them the guest bedroom at the end of the hall. It had a queen bed, its own bathroom, plenty of closet space. I kept the master bedroom for myself. That was non-negotiable. That room held too many memories of Harold. His reading glasses were still on the nightstand. His robe still hung on the back of the bathroom door. The first week was wonderful. Trevor helped me fix the leaky faucet in the kitchen. Amanda cooked dinner on Tuesday, a beautiful lasagna that reminded me of the kind Harold used to make. We watched movies together in the living room. I felt the fog of grief lifting just a little. The second week, small changes started. Amanda rearranged the kitchen cabinets one afternoon while I was at the grocery store. She said it was more efficient to have the dishes closer to the dishwasher. I came home to find everything moved around. It took me 20 minutes to find the coffee mugs the next morning. The third week, Amanda suggested my furniture was looking dated. She brought in some of her own pieces from storage. A modern coffee table replaced the oak one Harold had built by hand. New throw pillows covered the couch in geometric patterns I didn't care for. She said it brightened up the space. I didn't have the heart to argue. By the second month, Amanda's parents started showing up for dinner every Friday without anyone asking if I minded. Carl and Diane would arrive at 6, already acting like they owned the place. Carl would help himself to drinks from my liquor cabinet. Diane would critique my cooking if I'd made the meal. "Your pot roast is dry, Bella. You should really use more broth." Trevor started working from home in Harold's study. He moved Harold's desk to the garage and brought in a modern, ergonomic setup with 3 monitors and a fancy chair. I walked past the room one day and saw all of Harold's books boxed up in the corner. My throat tightened, but Trevor said he needed the space to concentrate. "It's just temporary, Mom. I need a proper workspace." The 3rd month brought the pregnancy announcement. Amanda gathered us all in the living room one Sunday morning. She held up a positive pregnancy test, tears streaming down her face. "We're having a baby!" I was happy for them. I truly was. My first grandchild. But something shifted after that announcement. Amanda became impossible to please. She complained about every smell in the house. My morning coffee made her nauseous. The scent of my lavender hand soap gave her headaches. She asked me to stop wearing my favorite perfume because it triggered her morning sickness. She started spending her days on the couch, calling out requests. "Bella, can you bring me crackers? Bella, can you get me some ginger ale? Bella, can you close the curtains?" The light hurts my eyes. I became a servant in my own home, and Trevor never said a word to stop it. By the 4th month, Trevor suggested I might want to give them space and eat dinner in my room. "Amanda needs peace and quiet, Mom. The pregnancy is hard on her, you understand." So I started taking my meals upstairs, eating alone while they entertained Amanda's parents downstairs in my dining room. The 5th month changed everything. I was folding laundry in my bedroom when I heard Amanda and Trevor talking in the hallway. Amanda said the master bedroom had better light for a nursery. The windows faced east. "Perfect for a baby's room," Trevor agreed. "They'd need space for a crib, a changing table, a rocking chair." I felt ice run through my veins. That was my bedroom, mine and Harold's. They couldn't possibly be suggesting what I thought they were suggesting, but they were. A week later, Amanda came to me with paint swatches, soft yellow or mint green, for the nursery. "We're thinking of moving into the master in a few weeks. You won't mind, will you? It's just so much more practical for the baby." I minded. I minded very much, but when I tried to protest, Trevor cut me off. "Mom, be reasonable. We're the ones with a baby coming. You don't need all that space. The guest room is plenty for you." That's when I started noticing other things. Trevor had stopped calling it my house. He said our house now, our property, our living room, as if he'd paid a single dollar toward the mortgage I'd finished paying off 7 years ago. I went through my mail one afternoon and found bank statements that looked wrong. I'd given Trevor temporary access to my checking account right after Harold died. I'd been so overwhelmed with grief, drowning in funeral arrangements and condolence casseroles, that I'd asked him to help me pay bills for a few weeks, just until I could think straight again. But now, looking at the statements, I saw withdrawals I didn't remember making. 500 here, 800 there, 1,000, another 1,500. I added it up. $10,000 gone in 3 months. I confronted Trevor that evening. He was in Harold's study, his study now, typing away at his computer. I laid the bank statements on his desk. "Trevor, there's money missing from my account." He barely looked up. "Mom, that's reimbursement. Remember? We've been buying groceries, paying utilities, handling repairs. You told me to take care of it." I never told him to take $10,000. I'd been buying most of the groceries myself. I paid the utility bills directly. He sighed like I was being difficult. Mom, you're getting confused. This happens. You're grieving. Your memory isn't what it used to be. We talked about all of this, but we hadn't. I knew we hadn't. Yet he said it with such confidence that I started doubting myself. Was my memory failing? Was grief making me forget things? Then came the attic conversation. The moment in the hallway with the groceries, with Amanda smirking, with Trevor telling me it was temporary. I should stay in the attic, just until after the baby comes. Just until we get settled. I went upstairs to look at the attic space they expected me to live in. The narrow staircase creaked with every step. The attic itself was dusty and dim, lit by a single bare bulb hanging from a wire. Boxes of Christmas decorations and old baby clothes were stacked against the walls. Exposed pink insulation peeked through gaps in the unfinished walls. There was no bathroom up here. I'd have to go downstairs to use the one in the hallway. The ceiling sloped so low, I'd have to duck when I walked. The air smelled like mothballs and mouse droppings. This was where my son wanted me to live, in the attic of my own home. I walked back downstairs and found Amanda in the master bedroom with a tape measure. She was measuring the walls, making notes on her phone. When she saw me, she smiled that sweet, poisonous smile. It's really better this way, Bella. You're getting older. You don't need so much space. The attic is actually quite cozy once you clean it up. I didn't respond. I walked out of the room, out of the house, and sat in my car in the driveway for an hour, trying to process what my life had become. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m, I got up for a glass of water. As I passed Harold's study, I heard voices. Trevor and Amanda were awake, talking in low tones. I stopped outside the door and listened. Amanda's voice came through clearly. We need to move faster. Once the baby comes, we'll say she's too old to handle the house. She'll sign it over for our help. She's already confused about the money. This is working, Trevor responded. She trusts me. I'll tell her it's for estate planning, that we need to protect the house from taxes or whatever. She'll never read the paperwork closely. She never does. Amanda laughed quietly. And if she refuses, we'll get Dylan to back us up that she's losing it. We've already been sending him updates about her memory problems. He believes us. We'll push for a conservatorship if we have to. Trevor agreed. Remember when she left the stove on last month? We can use that. Build a case that she's not competent. But I hadn't left the stove on. I never left the stove on. They were making it up, creating a false narrative to steal my house. My hands started shaking. I backed away from the door as quietly as I could and climbed the stairs to my bedroom. I sat on the edge of the bed Harold and I had shared for 4 decades, and I finally understood. This had never been about keeping me company. This had never been about helping me grieve. This was a con, a long, calculated plan to take everything Harold and I had built, and I had let them in. I had welcomed them with open arms. I had made it easy. I looked at Harold's photo on the nightstand. He was smiling in the picture, his arm around me at our 40th anniversary party. I could almost hear his voice. Never let bullies win, Bella. Never give them the satisfaction. I wouldn't. I decided right then, sitting in the dark at 2:30 in the morning, that I would fight back and I would win. I woke up at 5:30 before Trevor and Amanda stirred. I got dressed quietly, grabbed my purse and phone and left the house. I drove to the grocery store parking lot and sat in my car with the engine running, heat blasting against the early March chill. I called Patricia Walsh, my old friend from book club. She'd been a real estate agent for 30 years, one of the top sellers in the Seattle area. She answered on the third ring, her voice groggy with sleep. Bella? Is everything okay? It's 6 in the morning. Patricia, I need to list my house today. How fast can you move? There was a pause. Your house? Bella, are you sure? That's your family home. You and Harold built so many memories there. I'm sure. I need it done fast, before Trevor knows what's happening. Another pause. Then Patricia's voice shifted into professional mode. Okay, let me think. Your house is in Maple Ridge, right? 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, about 3,000 square feet? That lot with the view of the Sound? Yes. Bella, your house is in one of the hottest neighborhoods in Seattle right now. With that view and that square footage, comparable homes are selling for $3.2 to $3.5 million. I'd price it at $3.3 to be competitive. I can have a photographer there this afternoon if you can get everyone out of the house for a few hours. Do it. I'll make it happen. I'll draw up the listing agreement. Meet me at my office at 9. I'll be there. Next, I drove to the office of Gerald Blackwell, the attorney who'd handled Harold's estate. His secretary said he didn't have appointments available until next week, but when I told her it was urgent, that it involved potential fraud, she squeezed me in at 8. Gerald was a man in his 60s with kind eyes and a sharp mind. He'd known Harold for 20 years. When I walked into his office, he stood up immediately, concern crossing his face. Bella, what's wrong? I told him everything. The move-in, the gradual takeover, the missing money, the conversation I'd overheard about stealing my house. My voice shook as I described the attic, the way Amanda measured my bedroom, the plot to have me declared incompetent. Gerald's face hardened as I talked. When I finished, he pulled up records on his computer. First, let's look at the deed, he typed rapidly. Okay, the house is solely in your name. Harold left everything to you. Trevor has no legal claim to the property whatsoever. What about the bank account? He checked another database. Did you sign any documents giving Trevor power of attorney? No. Never. Then, he had no legal authority to withdraw funds. If he accessed your account without proper authorization, that's fraud. We can pursue criminal charges. The relief I felt was physical. My shoulders dropped. My breathing steadied. What about the conservatorship threat? Gerald leaned back in his chair. They'd have to prove you're incompetent, which you're clearly not. But they could tie you up in court for months, cost you tens of thousands in legal fees. The best defense is offense. List the house, sell it fast, and cut them out completely. Once the house is sold, and you have the money, they have nothing to fight over. Can they stop the sale? Not if you move quickly. Don't tell them until the listing is live. If they try to file an injunction, we'll fight it. But most judges won't stop a property owner from selling their own house, especially when there's evidence of fraud. I signed papers giving Gerald permission to investigate Trevor's access to my accounts and to represent me in any legal action. Then I drove to Patricia's office and signed the listing agreement. Patricia worked fast. By noon, she had a photographer scheduled for 2. I texted Trevor a lie, said I was spending the day with an old friend and he and Amanda should go out for lunch, take advantage of the nice weather. He texted back a thumbs-up emoji. The photographer arrived at 2 exactly. He spent 3 hours capturing every angle of my beautiful home. The kitchen with its granite countertops and custom cabinets. The living room with its vaulted ceilings and stone fireplace. The master bedroom with its ensuite bath and walk-in closet. The backyard with its garden and view of the Sound. The photos made the house looked like something from a magazine. By 4, the listing was live. Patricia had written compelling copy. Stunning 4-bedroom executive home in sought-after Maple Ridge. Panoramic water views. Meticulously maintained. Move-in ready. Priced at $3.3 million. I'd already packed 2 suitcases that morning while Trevor and Amanda slept. Everything important. Harold's will. Our marriage certificate. Photo albums. My jewelry. Important papers. I loaded them into my car and parked 3 blocks away. Then I waited. Trevor came home at 6. I heard his truck pull into the driveway. I was in the kitchen, pretending to chop vegetables for a salad I had no intention of eating. He burst through the door, his face red. Amanda was right behind him, looking furious. "What did you do?" I kept chopping. "I'm making dinner." A neighbor texted me. "They saw our house is listed for sale." "What the hell, Mom?" I put down the knife and turned to face them. "I'm selling my house. It's my property. You have 30 days to find somewhere else to live." Trevor's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "You can't do this." "I can." I did. The listing went live 3 hours ago. Amanda stepped forward, her hand protectively over her belly. "You're throwing your pregnant daughter-in-law out? What kind of person are you? The kind who doesn't want to live in an attic. The kind who overheard you plotting to steal my house." Trevor's face went pale. "You were listening to a private conversation? In my house? About my property?" "Yes, I was listening." Amanda started crying. "Those weren't real plans. We were just venting. We're stressed about the baby. You measured my bedroom for a nursery. You stole $10,000 from my bank account. You've been telling Dylan I'm losing my mind. Those aren't venting sessions. Those are crimes." Trevor pulled out his phone. "We'll see about this." He made a call. 20 minutes later, Dylan walked through the door. My younger son, who lived 3 hours away in Spokane, who I hadn't seen in 4 months. Dylan looked confused. "Mom, what's going on? Trevor said you're having some kind of breakdown." "I'm selling my house." "That's not a breakdown. That's a business decision." Dylan glanced at Trevor, then back at me. "Trevor says you've been confused lately, forgetting things, making bad decisions. Trevor has been lying to you." Dylan pulled out his phone and started scrolling. "Mom, Trevor's been sending me updates. Look, he showed me the screen. Text messages from Trevor over the past 2 months. Mom left the stove on today. Could have burned the house down. Mom couldn't remember where she parked at the grocery store. Took her an hour to find her car. Mom called me Harold yesterday. Thought Dad was still alive. All lies. Every single one." Dylan looked troubled. "Mom, I think you need help. Maybe we should talk about getting you evaluated. A conservatorship might be the best thing." The word hit me like a slap. Conservatorship. They'd been planning this with Dylan, too. Setting up a paper trail to have me declared incompetent so they could control my assets. I looked at my younger son, the boy I'd raised, whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, whose college tuition I'd paid. "Get out of my house, all of you, tonight." "Mom, be reasonable." "I am being reasonable. You're conspiring to steal from me. That's elder abuse. That's fraud. Now get out before I call the police." Amanda sobbed louder. "We have nowhere to go. You should have thought of that before you tried to put me in an attic." Trevor stepped closer, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "You're making a huge mistake. We have rights. We've been living here for months. You can't just kick us out. Watch me." I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. The operator answered immediately. "I need police at my home. My son and his wife are refusing to leave my property." Trevor grabbed my phone. "Mom, stop." I yanked it back. The operator was still on the line, asking if I was safe. I told her I was fine but needed someone to help me with an eviction. The police arrived 15 minutes later. 2 officers, 1 male, 1 female. They listened to both sides of the story. Trevor claimed tenants' rights. The officers explained it was a civil matter. I'd need to file formal eviction papers. They couldn't force Trevor and Amanda out without a court order. But they also told Trevor that if I wanted to sell my house, I had every right to do so. Property ownership gave me that authority. They suggested Trevor and Amanda start looking for a new place. After the officers left, the 3 of them stood in my living room glaring at me. Dylan shook his head. "I can't believe you'd do this to your own family. I can't believe my family would do this to me." They left together, climbing into Dylan's car and driving away. Amanda was still crying. Trevor looked back at me through the car window, and the expression on his face was pure hatred. I locked the door behind them and leaned against it, my legs shaking. Then I called Gerald. "They're not leaving willingly. We need eviction papers. I'll file them first thing tomorrow morning. Emergency eviction. Should take about 30 days. What if they come back tonight? Change your locks. Right now. I'll text you a locksmith who can come out on emergency calls." The locksmith arrived at 9. By 10, every lock in the house was changed. I slept that night with a chair pushed against my bedroom door, but at least I slept in my own bedroom, not in an attic. The next morning, I woke to 17 missed calls and 34 text messages, all from Trevor, Amanda, and Dylan. The messages ranged from pleading to threatening. "Mom, please reconsider. You're tearing this family apart. If you don't let us back in, you'll never see your grandchild. We're going to fight you on this. You're going to regret this." I blocked all their numbers. Then I got a call from Patricia. "Bella, you're not going to believe this. We already have 3 showings scheduled for today and 5 for tomorrow. This house is going to move fast." For the first time in 6 months, I smiled. The next 48 hours felt like a war. Gerald filed emergency eviction papers on Monday morning. The judge scheduled a hearing for 2 weeks out. In the meantime, Trevor and Amanda had the legal right to stay in the house. They showed up Monday evening with a locksmith of their own, demanding I let them in. I stood on the other side of the door and called Gerald. He conference called the police. The officers explained to Trevor that I'd changed the locks on my own property, which was my right, and that he'd need to wait for the eviction hearing, Trevor argued. The officers warned him that if he broke in, he'd be arrested for burglary. Trevor and Amanda left, but not before Amanda screamed through the door that I was a monster, that I was killing my grandchild with stress. On Tuesday, Patricia brought the first potential buyers through. A young tech couple, both engineers at Microsoft, with stock options burning a hole in their pocket. They loved everything: the view, the layout, the neighborhood. They put in an offer that evening, $3.4 million, all cash, 30-day close. I wanted to accept immediately, but Patricia advised waiting. "Let's see if we get more offers. This market is hot." By Thursday, we had 4 offers. The highest was $3.5 million from a California couple relocating for work. I told Patricia to accept. Then Trevor's attorney called Gerald. They were filing for emergency conservatorship. The petition was filed Friday afternoon. Trevor and Dylan claimed I was mentally declining, making erratic financial decisions, potentially being exploited by my real estate agent. They'd found a doctor, Marcus Hendricks, who signed an affidavit saying he had concerns about my cognitive state. I'd never met this doctor in my life. They'd also filed a restraining order, claiming I'd threatened them with violence. Complete fiction, but it required a response. Gerald was furious. "This is pure harassment. We'll fight both. But Bella, this is going to cost money. Conservatorship hearings aren't cheap." "How much?" 15 to 20,000. Probably more if it drags out. I told him to do whatever it took. The conservatorship hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks out, the same day as the eviction hearing. Everything would be decided at once. Meanwhile, the house showings continued, but Trevor and Amanda sabotaged as many as they could. They'd moved back in the day after the locksmith incident, breaking in through a basement window. The police said it was still a civil matter. I couldn't legally keep them out until the eviction was finalized. Amanda followed potential buyers around during showings, her pregnant belly on full display, crying about how she was being displaced. She told one couple that the house had foundation issues. She told another there was black mold in the basement. Both couples withdrew their offers. Trevor spread rumors in the neighborhood. He told our neighbors I was having a mental breakdown, that I was being scammed by a predatory real estate agent. 3 neighbors I'd known for 20 years stopped talking to me. The California buyers, thank goodness, were determined. They'd had their own inspection done and found no issues. They wanted the house regardless of the drama. But their attorney called Patricia. "We need this conservatorship issue resolved before we close. We can't buy a property if ownership is in dispute." I understood, but my stomach dropped. Everything depended on winning that hearing. Then the financial pressure started. I discovered Trevor had been using my credit cards, 15,000 in charges I didn't authorize. Restaurants, electronics, furniture for wherever they were planning to live next. I called the credit card companies to dispute the charges, but they said it would take 60 to 90 days to investigate. In the meantime, I still owed the money. I canceled the cards. My credit score took a hit. Then my bank called. There was a hold on my checking account pending the conservatorship hearing. Someone had filed a motion claiming I was making impulsive financial decisions and my assets needed to be frozen for my protection. I couldn't access my own money. I had $3,000 in cash from my emergency fund hidden in the house. That was it until the hearing. I moved into a motel, the Pineview Inn on the outskirts of town. $69 a night. I couldn't stay in the house with Trevor and Amanda there, sabotaging showings, making my life miserable. My sister Judith called. "Bella, what are you doing? Trevor says you're selling Harold's house out from under him. That house is his inheritance." "That house is mine. Harold left it to me. Trevor has no claim." "But family, Bella. You raised him there. You can't just throw him out. He tried to make me live in an attic." Judith didn't believe me. Or didn't want to. Trevor's story was more palatable. Grieving widow makes rash decisions. Ungrateful mother kicks out pregnant son. That was the narrative taking hold. Harold's brother Raymond called next. "Harold would be ashamed of you. That house was supposed to stay in the family." "I'm family. I'm Harold's wife. You're being selfish." I hung up on him. Even my church friends started pulling away. Someone started a Facebook post in our church group. "Elderly woman evicting pregnant daughter-in-law. Please pray for this family." The post didn't name me directly, but everyone knew. The comments were brutal. How could she? That poor girl. Some people shouldn't be allowed to make decisions alone. I stopped going to church. 1 week before the hearing, Patricia called with devastating news. "Bella, we have a huge problem. There's a lien on the property." "A what?" "A lien. A legal claim for unpaid debt. Amanda's father, Carl, filed it. He's claiming you owe him $50,000 for home repairs he did last year." "I never hired Carl to do any repairs. He has invoices, contracts with your signature. They look legitimate. They're forged." I never signed anything. Gerald got involved immediately. He examined the documents. The signatures looked surprisingly good. Not perfect, but good enough to fool a cursory inspection. Carl must have practiced or hired someone skilled. "This is fraud," Gerald said. "But proving it will take time. The title company won't close with an active lien. We need to get it removed before the California buyers walk away." "How long will that take?" "Could be weeks, could be months. We'd need a hearing, forensic document analysis. Meanwhile, your buyers are getting nervous." The California couple's attorney called Patricia that afternoon. "We're giving you 2 more weeks. If this isn't resolved, we're pulling our offer." Everything was collapsing. The conservatorship hearing was in 6 days. The lien couldn't be resolved in time. The buyers were about to walk. I was running out of money, staying in a motel, watching my entire life disintegrate. That night, I sat on the motel bed and cried for the first time since this nightmare started. Not gentle tears, deep, wrenching sobs. For Harold, who should have been here to fight with me. For the sons I'd raised who'd turned into strangers. For the life I'd built that was being stolen piece by piece. I looked at the photo of Harold I'd brought with me. We were young in the picture, maybe 30, standing in front of the empty lot where we'd build our house. We looked so hopeful, so certain the future was bright. "What would you do?" I whispered to the photo. "How do I fight this?" But Harold couldn't answer. He was gone. I was alone, and I was losing. Gerald spent the days before the hearing preparing my defense. We gathered every piece of evidence we could find. My clean driving record, my volunteer work at the library every Tuesday, my recent physical with Dr. Sharon Whitmore, my physician of 15 years, showing perfect cognitive function, my bank statements documenting Trevor's unauthorized withdrawals, proof of his forged access to my accounts. We also prepared my testimony. Gerald coached me. Be calm. Be clear. Don't let them rattle you. Judges see through manipulation, but you have to give them the truth plainly. The hearing was scheduled for 9 on a Thursday morning. I put on my best Navy suit, the one I'd worn to Harold's funeral. I wanted to look competent, pulled together, nothing like the confused old woman Trevor was painting me as. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Judge Catherine Moreno presided, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Trevor sat on one side with his attorney, a slick man in an expensive suit named Richard Vance. Amanda sat beside him, wearing a maternity dress, her hands folded over her belly. Dylan sat in the row behind them. Amanda's parents were there too, Carl looking smug, Diane looking uncomfortable. Gerald and I sat on the other side. Patricia was there for moral support, along with Dr. Whitmore. Trevor's attorney went first. He painted a picture of a grieving widow spiraling into poor decisions. He presented the text messages Trevor had sent to Dylan documenting my supposed memory lapses. He called Dr. Hendricks, who testified via video that he'd reviewed my case file and had concerns. Gerald objected. Dr. Hendricks has never met my client. Judge Moreno sustained the objection and struck the testimony. Then Amanda took the stand. She was good. I'll give her that. She cried at all the right moments. She talked about how much she loved me, how worried she was about me. She described finding me confused, disoriented, unable to remember conversations. She's selling the family home on a whim, Amanda testified. She's being manipulated by people who want her money. She needs protection. Trevor testified next. He talked about finding me with the stove left on, about times I'd called him by Harold's name, about my erratic behavior since Harold's death. Gerald cross-examined him. Mr. Trevor, did you or did you not Withdraw $10,000 from your mother's account without her explicit permission. Trevor stammered. I had permission. She told me to handle her bills. Did she sign any document giving you that permission? We had a verbal agreement. Gerald presented the bank records, showing the unauthorized access, the lack of any legal power of attorney. He showed the timeline of withdrawals that coincided with personal purchases, not bills. Trevor grew defensive, contradicted himself twice. Then Dylan testified. He was more measured than Trevor, but his testimony was damaging. He talked about his concerns from afar, the troubling reports from Trevor. He genuinely seemed to believe I was declining. Gerald didn't go as hard on Dylan. He simply asked, "When's the last time you visited your mother in person before this hearing?" Dylan hesitated. "About 6 months ago. And in that visit, did you observe any cognitive decline?" "No. But, thank you." Our side went next. Dr. Whitmore testified. "I've been Mrs. Bella's physician for 15 years. I gave her a complete physical 6 weeks ago, including cognitive screening. She's sharp, articulate, fully competent. She scored perfectly on memory tests, executive function, everything. There's zero evidence of decline." Patricia testified about the house sale. The decision to sell was well-reasoned. The market supports the price. She understood every aspect of the transaction. This wasn't impulsive. This was smart. Then I took the stand. Gerald walked me through the timeline, moving Trevor and Amanda in, the gradual takeover, the attic demand, the conversation I'd overheard about stealing my house. Judge Moreno stopped me. "You overheard them planning to take your property?" "Yes, Your Honor." I repeated the conversation word for word. My memory was crystal clear. Amanda saying they'd claim I was too old to handle the house. Trevor saying he'd trick me into signing a quitclaim deed. Their plan to use Dylan to push for conservatorship. The judge's expression hardened. Then Trevor's attorney cross-examined me. He tried to trip me up, asked me rapid-fire questions about dates, times, specific events. I answered every question clearly and accurately. My mind was sharp. I knew exactly what I was doing and why. "Mrs. Bella, don't you think you're being vindictive? Punishing your son for trying to help you?" "He wasn't trying to help me. He was trying to steal from me." "Isn't it true you're just bitter about getting older, about losing your husband, and you're taking it out on your family?" "I'm bitter about being betrayed by my son. Age has nothing to do with it." After 2 hours of testimony, the judge called a recess. We reconvened 30 minutes later. Judge Moreno looked at Trevor, then at me. "I've reviewed all the evidence. I've listened to all the testimony." She paused. "I find no evidence of incapacity." "Mrs. Bella demonstrated clear understanding of her financial situation, her property rights, and her reasons for selling her home. Her physician confirms excellent cognitive function." Relief flooded through me. "However," the judge continued, "I am concerned about the financial irregularities." She looked at Trevor. "The unauthorized account access, the questionable withdrawals." She ordered Trevor to return all funds immediately and barred him from accessing my accounts. "The conservatorship petition is denied." I almost cried right there in the courtroom. Additionally, the judge granted the eviction. Trevor and Amanda had 72 hours to vacate the property. If they didn't, the sheriff would remove them. Trevor's face went red. His attorney tried to object, but Judge Moreno shut him down. "This hearing is concluded." We walked out of the courtroom. Gerald squeezed my shoulder. "You did it, Bella. You won." But the victory was short-lived. As I stood on the courthouse steps, breathing in the cool air and feeling like maybe, finally, this nightmare was over, a sheriff's deputy approached me. Mrs. Bella? Yes? He handed me papers. You've been served. I opened the envelope. It was a personal injury lawsuit. Amanda was claiming I'd pushed her down the stairs 2 weeks ago. She was seeking $500,000 in damages for emotional distress and pregnancy complications caused by my assault. The date listed was a Tuesday. I'd spent all day at the library volunteering. I had witnesses. But that didn't matter. The lawsuit was filed. There would be another court date. More legal fees, more stress. Gerald read over my shoulder and swore under his breath. They're not giving up. Patricia's phone rang. She answered, listened, her face falling. She hung up and looked at me. The California buyers just withdrew their offer. They saw the lawsuit. They don't want to be involved in litigation. My brief moment of victory crumbled. I'd won the conservatorship hearing. I'd won the eviction. But Trevor and Amanda had just unleashed a new attack. The house couldn't sell with active litigation. The buyers had walked. The lien was still in place, and I was right back where I started. Maybe worse. Trevor and Amanda did vacate within the 72 hours, but they made sure to leave maximum destruction in their wake. I returned to the house on Saturday afternoon after they'd gone, and what I found made me physically sick. Every wall in the guest bedroom had fist-sized holes punched through the drywall. The carpet in the hallway was soaked with bleach, the fibers eaten away, leaving pale scars across the floor. In the kitchen, every cabinet door hung at odd angles, the hinges ripped half out. The refrigerator door had been torn completely off, but the worst was the master bedroom. Spray paint covered the walls in angry red letters. Words I won't repeat. Hateful, vicious words. Harold's closet had been ransacked. His clothes were shredded, scattered across the floor like confetti. Our wedding photo, the one that hung above the bed for 30 years, was smashed, the frame broken, the glass shattered across the carpet. I found our photo albums in the bathtub, soaked in what smelled like motor oil. 40 years of memories ruined. Birthday parties, holidays, vacations, gone. In the basement, they'd ripped out the copper piping from the water heater. Water damage spread across the concrete floor. I called the police. They took photos, wrote a report, but said it was still a civil matter. I could sue for damages, but they couldn't arrest anyone without proof of who did it. Trevor and Amanda would just deny everything. I called my insurance company. They said vandalism by family members during a domestic dispute wasn't covered. I called contractors for estimates. $75,000 to repair everything. New drywall, new carpet, new cabinets, new fixtures, replumbing the basement. I had $3,000 left. My credit cards were maxed from Trevor's fraud, still being disputed. My bank account was accessible again after the conservatorship hearing, but Trevor had drained most of it before the judge's order. I had maybe $15,000 in checking. Not enough, not even close. Patricia gently suggested taking the house off the market until repairs were done. We can't show it like this. No one will buy it in this condition. But I couldn't afford the repairs without selling the house. I was trapped in an impossible circle. Meanwhile, Amanda's lawsuit moved forward. Her attorney wanted depositions. I spent 9 hours in a conference room being interrogated. Isn't it true you resented Amanda? Isn't it true you were jealous of her pregnancy? Isn't it true you have anger management issues? The attorney had witnesses lined up. Amanda's friends who claimed they'd seen me acting erratic, hostile. One said she'd heard me threaten Amanda. Another said she'd witnessed me shove Amanda during an argument. All lies, all coordinated. Gerald fought back, but depositions cost money. $350 an hour for his time. The bills piled up. The stress started affecting my health. I woke up one night in the motel with crushing chest pain, my left arm numb. I drove myself to the emergency room, certain I was having a heart attack like Harold. The ER doctor ran tests. It wasn't a heart attack. It was a severe panic attack. But the bill was $4,000. My insurance covered some, but my deductible was $3,000. Money I didn't have. The doctor prescribed anti-anxiety medication. She also referred me to a cardiologist because my blood pressure was dangerously high. Mrs. Bella, this stress is killing you. You need to find a way to reduce it. But how? The lawsuit dragged on. The house sat empty and damaged. My savings evaporated. I'd lost 23 pounds. My hands shook constantly. I couldn't sleep more than 2 or 3 hours a night. Dr. Whitmore called me in for an appointment. She didn't like what she saw. Bella, your blood pressure is 170/100. You're at risk for a stroke. The weight loss is concerning. You're not eating properly. You're not sleeping. Your body can't sustain this level of stress. I know, but I don't know how to stop it. Maybe it's time to consider settling. Walk away. Your health is more important than the house. But it was my house. Mine and Harold's. The place we'd built our life. Letting Trevor and Amanda win felt like letting them destroy everything Harold and I had created together. Then Gerald called with worse news. Bella, Trevor's filed another lawsuit. He found a loophole. What loophole? Remember Harold's mother, Lorraine? She died 20 years ago. When you and Harold bought the house 40 years ago, Lorraine gave you $10,000 toward the down payment. Trevor's claiming that makes the house partially family inheritance. He's filing a partition lawsuit, forcing the sale and demanding his share. But that was a gift. She gave it to both of us. Trevor's arguing it was a loan or an investment. He's produced a letter from Lorraine, dated 38 years ago, that mentions helping you with the house. Can he win? Probably not. The claim is legally weak, but he doesn't need to win. He just needs to tie up the property in litigation for another year, maybe more. And Bella, honestly, can you afford another year of this? I couldn't. I knew I couldn't. My legal bills were $32,000 and climbing. The house repairs were $75,000. The motel was eating through $70 a day. My credit was destroyed. My health was failing. Patricia called the same afternoon. Bella, I have someone interested in buying the house as is. They're an investor who flips properties. They'll take it with all the damage, no repairs needed. But the offer is low. $2 million. You'd net about 1.8 after fees and paying off the mortgage lien. That was almost half what the house was worth. And even if you accept, Patricia continued, we still have the problem of the lawsuits. The title company won't close with active litigation. Gerald had the same advice. Bella, maybe it's time to settle. Offer Trevor and Amanda $100,000 to drop everything. Walk away with 1.6 or 7 million. It's not what you deserve, but it's survival. Both of them, my real estate agent and my attorney, were telling me to give up, to let the people who'd tried to destroy me profit from their cruelty. That night, I stood in the master bedroom of my destroyed house. Spray paint still covered the walls. Broken glass crunched under my feet. I held the one photo of Harold that had survived, the one from our wedding day. We looked so young, so happy, so certain we'd build a beautiful life together. And we had. 43 years of marriage, 2 sons, this house, memories that filled every room. Now it was ruined. Not just the physical damage, but the sanctity of it. Trevor and Amanda had poisoned it. Even if I won, even if I got them to pay, the house would never feel like home again. It would always carry the stench of their betrayal. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe I should just take the loss and walk away. I sat on the floor, surrounded by broken things, and for the first time, I seriously considered surrender. I don't know how long I sat on that floor. An hour, maybe 2. The sun set, and the room grew dark. I didn't turn on the lights. I just sat there, holding Harold's photo, surrounded by destruction. And then I remembered something Harold used to say when we faced difficulties. When Trevor dropped out of college his sophomore year. When Dylan wrecked our car at 17. When Harold's business partner tried to cheat him out of their company. Never let bullies win, Harold would say. Never give them the satisfaction. You fight, Bella. You fight because letting them win is worse than losing everything trying. Something shifted inside me. A hardening, a resolve. I stood up. My knees cracked, my back ached, but I stood. I looked around the destroyed room and made a decision. I wasn't giving up. I was fighting. The next morning, I started digging. I created a fake Facebook profile with a generic name and photo. I sent friend requests to Amanda's friends, people she posted with regularly. Most accepted. I started following Amanda's posts, and I noticed something odd. She was posting photos at Canlis, an expensive Seattle restaurant where entrees started at $80. She was shopping at Nordstrom, posting pictures of designer baby clothes with tags still attached, showing prices in the hundreds. She'd posted a photo of their new apartment building, a luxury high-rise downtown. How were they affording any of this? Trevor had claimed in court they were barely scraping by, that they needed to live with me to save money. I drove to their building one afternoon. The directory showed their unit. I asked the leasing office about rental prices. $2,800 a month for a 1-bedroom, plus parking, which was another $200. $3,000 a month. Where was that money coming from? I followed Trevor the next day. I stayed far back, kept my distance. He drove to a coffee shop in Ballard and met with a man I didn't recognize. They talked for 30 minutes. As they left, Trevor handed the man an envelope. The man handed Trevor one back. I took photos with my phone. I decided to hire a private investigator. It was a risk. I had so little money left. But I called Jack Thornton, a retired police detective who'd done some work for Harold's company years ago. Jack quoted me $2,000 for a week of investigation. I paid it. Within 3 days, Jack called me. "Bella, you need to come to my office. I found something big." I drove there immediately. Jack spread photos and documents across his desk. "Your son is running a house flipping scheme. He buys properties at auction, hires contractors to do renovations, then sells for profit. Nothing illegal about that normally. But here's where it gets interesting. He's been using your credit to open contractor accounts. He gets materials, promises payment, then disappears without paying. He owes 7 different suppliers, totaling over $100,000. I stared at the documents. Jack continued. "And Amanda's father, Carl? He's in on it. Those fake invoices he filed for the lien, they're part of a bigger operation. They've been creating false paper trails to hide the money they're making. They take deposits from buyers, pocket the money, then claim the renovations cost more than expected. It's wire fraud. Can we prove this?" Jack smiled. "I've got bank records, email chains, and testimonies from 4 families they've scammed. And look at this." He showed me security camera footage from a neighbor's house. "This is from the date Amanda claims you pushed her down the stairs. The timestamp shows she was never at your house that day. She was shopping at University Village. The assault was completely fabricated." Relief and rage flooded through me in equal measure. "This is prosecutable," Jack said. "Criminal fraud, Wire fraud crosses state lines because they've been buying properties in Oregon too. The FBI could get involved if they wanted. At minimum, local DA will be interested. I took everything to Gerald. He reviewed it all, his eyes widening. Bella, this changes everything. This is criminal. We take this to the district attorney's office right now. We spent the next 3 hours at the DA's office. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Lisa Chen. Wait, I can't use Chen. Let me fix that. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Lisa Brennan, reviewed everything. She asked pointed questions, made notes, consulted with her supervisor. Finally, she looked up. We're interested. This is absolutely prosecutable fraud. Give us 2 weeks to build the case. In the meantime, I suggest your attorney approach Amanda's lawyer with this information. Once they see what we have, they'll drop the personal injury suit fast. Gerald did exactly that. He sent Amanda's attorney a folder with copies of everything: bank records, testimonies from defrauded families, the security footage disproving the assault, documentation of Trevor's contractor fraud. He included a note. Your client is facing criminal charges: wire fraud, forgery, conspiracy. If the personal injury lawsuit proceeds to trial, all of this becomes public record. I suggest you advise your client to drop the suit immediately and avoid prosecution. Amanda's attorney called 2 days later. His voice was tight. I'm withdrawing from the case. I've advised my client to drop the lawsuit, but she's refused. I can't ethically continue representing her given what I now know. He withdrew officially the next day. Amanda was left without an attorney, and most lawyers she approached refused to take the case once they saw the evidence against her. Then I got an unexpected call. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mrs. Bella? It's Diane, Amanda's mother. I need to talk to you, please. It's important. We met at a coffee shop near Green Lake. Diane looked haggard, her face drawn, dark circles under her eyes. She'd aged 10 years since I'd last seen her. She sat down across from me and started crying immediately. I didn't know. I swear to you, I didn't know the extent of what they were doing. Carl told me he was helping Trevor with business paperwork. That's all. I thought it was legitimate. She pulled a folder from her bag and slid it across the table. I found these in Carl's home office last night. I couldn't sleep, so I was cleaning, and I found a file cabinet I didn't know existed. It was full of documents. The fraud, the fake lien, everything. He'd been running schemes like this for years. I opened the folder. Inside were handwritten notes in Carl's writing. Plans for the lien, copies of the forged invoices, a timeline of their plot to steal my house. It was all there. Why are you giving this to me? Diane wiped her eyes. Because it's wrong. Because you don't deserve this. Because I have a granddaughter coming, and I don't want her to grow up learning this is acceptable. Her voice broke. Amanda learned this from Carl. This is who he is, who he's always been. I was too blind to see it. What are you going to do? I'm leaving him. I've already contacted a divorce attorney. And I'll testify. I'll give a deposition. I'll tell everything I know. She looked at me with such genuine remorse. Can you ever forgive me for not seeing sooner? I don't know. But I appreciate you coming forward. Diane agreed to meet with Gerald and give a full deposition. She had insider knowledge of Carl's operations, documents that proved the conspiracy. She was willing to testify in court if needed. Armed with Diane's testimony and all the evidence Jack had gathered, Gerald moved fast. He filed motions to dismiss Trevor's partition lawsuit and to remove Carl's lien. He provided all the fraud evidence to the court. Judge Moreno held an emergency hearing. Trevor, Amanda, and Carl were all subpoenaed. They showed up with their attorneys, looking confident at first. Then Gerald presented everything: the bank records, the testimonies from defrauded families, the fake invoices, Diane's deposition, the security footage proving Amanda's assault claim was false. The confidence drained from their faces. Judge Moreno reviewed the evidence in silence. Then she looked up, her expression hard. This court finds clear evidence of fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. She turned to Trevor. The partition lawsuit is dismissed with prejudice. She turned to Carl. The lien is removed immediately and deemed fraudulent. She referred the entire case to the DA's office for criminal prosecution. All three of them, Trevor, Amanda, and Carl, were now facing criminal charges. Their attorneys started negotiating plea deals immediately. No one wanted to go to trial with evidence this strong. Trevor agreed to plead guilty to wire fraud and forgery. 18 months in prison, plus restitution to all victims, including me. Carl took a plea for 2 years. Amanda, being pregnant, got probation and 500 hours of community service. But she'd have a criminal record. They were all ordered to pay restitution. Trevor had to repay the $10,000 he'd stolen, plus the $15,000 in credit card fraud. They had to reimburse my legal fees, which had reached $43,000. The house was clear. No liens, no lawsuits, no claims. Patricia immediately called potential buyers. The investor who'd offered $2 million was still interested, but now, with clear title, she could list it properly again. But before that, I had one problem left: repairs. And that's when something unexpected happened. The local news station that had run the negative story about me months ago called. They wanted to do a follow-up. I agreed. I gave an interview showing the destroyed house, explaining everything that had happened. I showed the spray-painted walls, the torn-up carpet, Harold's ruined belongings. I showed the evidence of fraud. The segment aired 3 days later. Public opinion shifted overnight. The comments section flooded with support. Community members started a GoFundMe without me even asking. Within 1 week, it raised $42,000. Local contractors saw the story. 3 of them called Patricia, offering to do the work at cost. One contractor, whose family had been defrauded by Trevor, offered to do the work for free. "My name is Paul Stevens," he said when he called. "Your son took $20,000 from my family, promised to renovate our kitchen, took our deposit, and vanished. When I saw your story, I knew I wanted to help. Let me fix your house, no charge, it's the least I can do." I cried on the phone with him. Paul and his crew worked for 3 weeks. They repaired the drywall, replaced the carpet, fixed the cabinets, replumbed the basement. They even repainted the entire house in fresh, clean colors. When they were done, the house looked better than it had in years. Patricia listed it again. This time, the offers poured in. The market was still hot. We had 6 offers within 4 days. The highest was $3.5 million, all cash, from a tech executive relocating from San Francisco. I accepted. The closing was scheduled for 30 days out, and this time, nothing stood in the way. The escrow closed on a Tuesday in late September. I sat in the title company's office, signing paper after paper, my hand cramping by the end. The notary stamped each document. The title officer smiled at me. "Congratulations, Mrs. Bella. You're officially closed." The money hit my account the next morning. $3.5 million, minus Patricia's commission, minus closing costs, minus the remaining balance on some repair bills. I netted $3.2 million. $3.2 million. More money than Harold and I had ever dreamed of having. I paid off every debt immediately. The legal bills, the credit cards, the medical bills from my ER visit. Everything went to zero. Then I started looking for a new place to live. I didn't want another big house. I didn't need 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. I didn't need a yard to maintain or stairs to climb. I found a beautiful 2-bedroom condo in a senior community near the coast, about 40 minutes north of Seattle. It had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Sound, a balcony where I could watch the sunset, a community center with activities and events, security at the front desk, neighbors who were my age, who understood what it was like to rebuild your life after loss. The condo cost $450,000. I paid cash. I furnished it simply: a comfortable couch, a small dining table, a bedroom set that felt like mine, not like something left over from a life I was trying to forget. I hung photos of Harold, but new ones, not the ones Trevor and Amanda had destroyed. I found copies in digital files, had them reprinted, framed them in simple black frames. My new home felt peaceful, light, free. I used some of the money to do something Harold and I had always talked about, but never done. I traveled. I went to Italy in October, spent 2 weeks in Tuscany eating pasta and drinking wine and walking through vineyards. I went to Paris in November, visited the Louvre, and climbed the Eiffel Tower and ate croissants at sidewalk cafes. I went to Ireland in December, drove the coastal roads, and stayed in small bed and breakfasts and listened to live music in pubs. I was 72 years old, and I was finally doing all the things Harold and I had postponed. "I'll go when I retire," we always said, "when we have more time, when we're not so busy." But Harold never got to retire. Heart attacks don't wait for convenient timing. So I went for both of us. I took photos at every stop and talked to Harold as if he were there. "Look at this view. Taste this wine. Isn't this beautiful?" And I swear I felt him with me, happy I was living instead of just surviving. When I returned to Seattle, I started volunteering at a legal aid clinic that specialized in elder law. I helped elderly people protect themselves from financial exploitation. I shared my story with them. I showed them what warning signs to look for. I helped them understand their rights. One woman, her name was Judith. Wait, I already used that name for my sister. Let me use a different name. One woman, her name was Ruth, came in with a situation almost identical to mine. Her daughter had moved in, taken over her house, emptied her bank account. Ruth was scared, confused, didn't know what to do. I sat with her for 3 hours. I walked her through every step. I connected her with an attorney. I went with her to court. I held her hand through the whole process. When Ruth won her case and got her house back, she hugged me and cried, "Thank you. Thank you for showing me I could fight." That feeling, helping someone else survive what I survived, was worth more than any dollar amount. My sister Judith apologized eventually. She called 6 months after everything ended. "Bella, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have listened." I forgave her. Not immediately, but over time. She was manipulated too. Trevor was skilled at controlling narratives. It wasn't entirely her fault. Some of my church friends reached out too. Some apologized. Others didn't, but they acted friendlier when they saw me. I forgave them too, mostly. I understood how easy it is to believe the wrong story when it's told convincingly. Dylan called a few times. The conversations were awkward, stilted. He said he was sorry. He said he should have questioned Trevor more. He said he wanted to rebuild our relationship. I told him the truth. "Dylan, I don't know if I can fully trust you again. You believed lies about me without even asking for my side. That hurt more than almost anything. I understand, he said quietly. I just hope someday you'll give me a chance to prove I've changed. Maybe someday, but not yet. Trust takes time to rebuild, and I wasn't ready. As for Trevor, I didn't hear from him directly. He was in prison, serving his 18 months. But I heard through the grapevine that Amanda had moved back in with Diane, who'd indeed left Carl. The baby was born in November, a girl named Sophie. Diane sent me photos via email. She'd gotten my email address from Gerald. The baby was beautiful. Dark hair, round cheeks, tiny fingers wrapped around Diane's thumb. I felt a pang of sadness looking at those photos. This was my granddaughter, my first grandchild. Under different circumstances, I'd be knitting her blankets, buying her toys, babysitting on weekends. But those circumstances didn't exist. Trevor and Amanda had made sure of that. Still, I wasn't cruel. I went to the bank and bought a savings bond in Sophie's name, $5,000, set to mature when she turned 18. I mailed it to Diane with a note for Sophie. When she's old enough to know the truth about what happened, when she can make her own decisions about relationships, this will be here for her. I hope she grows up to be nothing like her parents. Diane called me crying after she received it. Thank you, Bella. I'll make sure she knows it came from you. I also included a letter for Sophie, sealed, with instructions not to open it until she was 18. In it, I told her the truth, not to poison her against her parents, but to give her the full story so she could understand why I wasn't in her life. I told her I loved her even though I'd never met her. I told her she was welcome to contact me when she was old enough, if she wanted to. Maybe she would. Maybe she wouldn't. That was years away. For now, I focused on building my new life. I joined a book club at my condo community. I made friends with my neighbors. I started painting, something I'd always wanted to learn but never had time for. I took a watercolor class at the community center and discovered I wasn't half bad at it. I dated a little. Nothing serious. A few dinners with a retired engineer named Walter, who lived 3 floors down. We enjoyed each other's company, but neither of us was looking for anything heavy. We were companions, not soulmates. That was okay. Harold had been my soulmate. I'd had my great love. Not everyone gets that even once. One evening in March, almost a year after I'd first listed the house, I sat on my balcony watching the sunset. The sky was streaked with pink and orange, reflecting off the water. A glass of wine sat on the table beside me. Classical music played softly from my speaker. I picked up the photo of Harold I kept on the side table. We were young in it, maybe 25, at a beach somewhere. Harold's arm was around me. We were both laughing at something beyond the camera's frame. "We did it, Harold," I said quietly. "We didn't let them win." I felt him with me. Proud. Relieved. At peace. The breeze was warm for March. Spring was coming. Cherry blossoms were starting to bloom around the community. Life was renewing itself. My phone rang. Patricia. "Bella, I hope I'm not disturbing you." "Not at all. What's going on?" "There's a young woman here at my office. Her name is Claire. She just found out her son and his girlfriend are trying to steal her house. She's terrified. She doesn't know what to do. She asked if I knew anyone who'd been through something similar. I told her about you. Would you be willing to talk to her?" I looked out at the sunset, then at Harold's photo. "Give me her number. I'll call her right now." Patricia texted me the contact. I dialed immediately. Claire answered on the second ring, her voice shaky. "Hello? Claire? My name is Bella. Patricia told me you need some help." We talked for over an hour. I heard her story. So similar to mine, it was eerie. The manipulation, the gaslighting, the financial abuse, the feeling of being trapped in your own home. I told her my story. I walked her through everything I'd learned. I gave her the names of my attorney, my investigator, my real estate agent. I told her what to document, what to watch for, how to protect herself. By the end of the call, her voice was steadier. I can really fight this? I can win? You can. It's not easy. It's not fun. But you can absolutely win. I did. And you will too. After we hung up, I sat back in my chair and smiled. I'd survived. More than that, I'd won. Trevor and Amanda hadn't just lost the house. They'd lost their freedom, their reputations, their future opportunities. They'd have criminal records forever. They'd have to repay all the money they'd stolen. They'd carry the shame of what they'd done for the rest of their lives. And me? I had my freedom, my dignity, my peace. I had learned that blood doesn't make you family. Respect and love do. I had learned that standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. I had learned that losing people who never truly valued you isn't a loss. It's liberation. I had learned that there's strength in knowing when to fight and wisdom in knowing what you're fighting for. I'd fought for my dignity, my autonomy, my right to respect, and I'd won. The sun dipped below the horizon. The sky darkened from orange to purple to deep blue. Stars started appearing, tiny pinpricks of light in the vast darkness. I finished my wine and went inside. Tomorrow, I was meeting Claire for coffee. Next week, I was volunteering at the legal aid clinic. Next month, I was flying to Spain. My life wasn't over. It was just beginning. I was 72 years old, and I was finally, truly free. Now, I have a question for everyone listening to this story. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who tried to take advantage of you? How did you handle it? Did you fight back, or did you walk away? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Your experiences might help someone else going through something similar. If this story resonated with you, if it gave you strength or hope, or just made you feel less alone, please hit that like button. It helps others find these stories when they need them most. And if you want to hear more stories about resilience, about people who faced impossible situations and found their way through, please subscribe to this channel. There are so many more stories to share, and I'd love to have you along for the journey. Finally, if you know someone who needs to hear this story, someone who's dealing with family manipulation or financial abuse, or just feels trapped in their own life, please share this video with them. Sometimes knowing someone else survived can be the thing that gives us courage to fight our own battles. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope you find your own strength, your own peace, and your own path to freedom, whatever that looks like for you. Until next time, take care of yourselves. You're stronger than you think.